Okay, welcome everyone to the lecture series on electromagnetic waves. So today we will start with lecture number 12B part. Okay, so in the last class we have seen lecture number 12A part. Okay, so we'll continue. So the contents covered in the previous lectures were the concept of electric flux density, and in the previous class we have seen what is Gauss's law, and we have seen problems on Gauss's law. So today we'll try to cover upon application of Gauss's law and problems on application of Gauss's law. Okay, so we have seen what is Gauss's law. So the statement is the electric flux passing through any closed surface is equal to the total charge enclosed by that surface. It is the general statement of Faraday's experiment. Okay. So we have a mathematical expression which says that the total flux leaving the closed surface, the total electric flux leaving the closed surface, okay, is given by a surface integral of ds dot ds. Okay, and the total flux leaving the closed surface will be equal to charge enclosed by that closed surface. So this is what we have a mathematical expression for a Gauss's law. Okay, and now the charge enclosed inside that closed surface can be a single point charge, it can be a sum of the point charge, or it can be a line charge. If it is a line charge, okay, we need to find what is the total charge present on the line, okay, which is captured inside the closed surface. Say for example, I have a sphere as a closed surface, and I say I have this as an infinite line charge, and you could see the line charge which is trapped inside the closed surface is only this portion. This is L. Okay, and if you know what is a charge density on this line, okay, and if this charge density is uniform, okay, you can find a total charge on this length of L as rho L into L. That will be equal to a total charge on the line of length L. Okay, because we need to find what is total charge trapped inside the closed surface, and it is given by rho L into L, which is equal to Q. Okay, if the charge density is not uniform, then we can use this expression as we have written for a general, that is integral of rho L into dl. Now you can also place inside a closed surface as a sheet charge. Okay, even in that case we need to find, say for example, I took again a sphere as a closed surface, and here I place a sheet charge. Okay, and you could see now the sheet charge is trapped inside the closed surface, and we know what is a rho s on this, and if this charge density is uniform, we can find total charge on this closed surface, which is equal to rho s into the area of that particular surface. Okay, that is the area of the surface. If it is not uniform, then we can use this expression, that is integral of rho s into ds. Similarly, I can also place one volume inside a closed surface. Okay, and you can find what is total charge which is present inside this volume. In that case, we have to multiply rho v into v, provided rho v is uniform. If it is not uniform, we have to use this integration. Okay, yeah. So I mean, there is two things when you see this Gauss law. Okay, if we know what is flux leaving the total closed surface, you can find what is total charge enclosed. Okay, and if you know what is total charge enclosed inside the surface, you can find the flux. Okay. And sometimes if you know the information, that is, you don't know what is flux and you don't know what is charge enclosed, but for a given surface, if you know the flux density on that surface, okay, you can evaluate this expression and you can find what is total flux leaving, and you can also find what is charge enclosed inside that surface. Okay. So we should really remember this, whatever points I said. Okay, that will be very useful when we solve the problem. You could see the problem number one. The problem number one is related to the Gauss's law. The problem number one is related to Gauss's law, and you could see they have given the density. Okay, and they have given on which surface the density is defined. Okay, so they have given this piece of information, and the part A question was find total charge. Sorry, part A was find electric field. That is quite simple, and the part B was find total charge within the sphere. Okay, the part they have given D, and they were asking Q enclosed, and you could see for a given D and for a given surface we can evaluate this integral and we can find the charge enclosed. So that is what we have done in the part B. Okay, and I said one trick here: if the charge, I mean the flux density is really a constant on the given surface, okay, there is really not necessary of doing all this integration. You can really perform this. You can really perform that the flux leaving or charge enclosed is equal to flux density times the surface area. This really works if flux density is constant on that surface. If it is not constant, we have to perform this integration. Okay. Okay. And the C part, you could see it's a really same. Now they were asking you is flux leaving. Part B was charge enclosed and the part C was flux leaving. And what information you have again? Information you have is about the D, the flux density for a given surface. And as I told you that the flux density was constant, so I applied a straightforward formula, that is flux density times the surface area. And the surface area of a sphere, we should remember this, that is 4 pi r square. Yes. And next we moved on to second problem. Okay, and you could see the second problem, they have given the charge enclosed inside a closed surface. Is that, you should clearly observe the difference between problem number one and problem number two. In problem number one, they have given the surface and they have given the density, that is flux density on that surface, and they were asking about the charge enclosed and the flux level. You could see the second problem is they have given the closed surface, which is a closed surface, which is defined by it's a cubical surface formed by this x comma y comma z, and they have given the charge distribution inside that closed surface, and now they are asking about the electric flux. Okay, so this problem is quite simple. So in this problem we have to count what is total charge is trapped inside that closed surface. So the part A was 2 point charge, which are located at these 2 points. And we found that these two locations are inside the closed surface, and hence the flux leaving that closed surface will be Q1 plus Q2. Okay. The second part was a uniform line charge of pi microcoulomb per meter, and it is located at x equal to -2, y equal to 3. The first thing we found that this line charge is really trapped inside the closed surface. The next question was how much of a length of this line charge is inside the closed surface. And it's quite easily understood that, I mean, it's easily understandable. You could see that it's a length of 10 because z is equal to 5 on the upper part and z equal to -5. So the total length is the 10. Okay, and hence we say that the Q enclosed, okay, by the line charge is rho L into 10. and hence flux leaving that closed surface will be equal to Q enclosed. So that is what we did in the B part. Okay, so you could see this is a cubical surface which is formed by 6 planes. One is x equal to 5, one more is x equal to minus 5, second is y equal to 5, y equal to minus 5, and z equal to 5, and z equal to minus 5. I have shown that Q1 and Q2 is really inside the surface, and even this line charge is inside the surface, but it is trapped only a length of 10. Beyond the length of 10, they are outside the surface. Okay. Yes. So now the third, we stopped at this point, the third point. Now there is a uniform sheet charge of a density 0.1 microcoulomb per meter square, and they have said that on the plane y equal to 3x. Okay, they have not given a direct information, but they have given the equation of the line on the plane. Okay, this is equation of the line on the plane. Okay, on the plane. Yeah. Now I have shown in this figure just that line. It is the line is y equal to 3x. Okay, so it is y equal to 3x, and you could see this straight line lies in the xy plane. That is what I have shown. So this is y equal to 3x. So now first thing we'll try to understand, how the plane looks like. Okay, so that figure I have shown here. That figure I have shown there. And you could see that if you want to understand how the plane is formed by this equation, so you could see this is the equation of the line y equal to 3x, which is passing through the origin. Now if you just move this line up and down, okay, you just try to slide up and down, okay, up and down, you could see you will form a plane as I shown here. Okay. Yeah. Now just you have to move this z up and down. You could see it forms a plane. Okay. So it is actually about, they are speaking about this plane. Okay. And they have given the information as the equation of the line which is passing through origin on the plane as y equal to 3x. Okay. So now what is our next job is, see, if you want to find what is charge, we need to find what is the charge enclosed, okay, inside this cubical surface by this sheet of charge, okay. Or the other way I want to say is, we need to identify what area, what portion of area of this plane is trapped inside the cubical surface. If I know what area is trapped inside this cubical surface, and then finding Q enclosed is quite simple, because the charge density is uniform. I can say that the Q enclosed is rho s into area. But the only unknown for me now is, what is this, what is this area is trapped inside the, what portion of this surface area is trapped inside the cubical surface. Okay. So one thing is very clear that, we need to vary the z, the upper part as 5 and lower part is 5, because the height of this cubical surface is total 10. 5 upper, below 10. So it means that I should vary z 5 and below this z as 5. So I got to know what is this length. See, this plane is a rectangular plane. Okay, I know what is this length. I got to know what is this length as 10. Now the next is, I need to find this length. If I know this length and this length, I will come to know the area. Okay, and I'm very sure that this 10 meter is really trapped inside this cubical surface. My next question is, what portion of this straight line, because you could see this dimension or this length is same as this length, which is also as same as this length. Okay, My next question is, what portion of this straight line is trapped inside this cubical surface? Okay. Now, how do we find that is, we'll find that with the help of the equation of the straight line. Now, you could see that I'll just draw this as x and this as y. And you could see that if I draw this line, okay, this is a straight line. And we know that in this particular thing, y is equal to 5. Okay. So if I take y equal to 5, okay, I can find corresponding what is the value of the x. So that is what I'm trying to tell here. The first thing we said that the straight line equation in xy plane which passes through origin, we need to find the length of the line enclosed by the given volume. Okay, this length of line is moved up and down to along the z-axis to form a plane. Just now I explained. Okay, now I can substitute y equal to 5 in a straight line to find what is the corresponding the value of the x. Okay, and you could see I'm actually interested to find this length. I know what is this length. I know what is this length now. This length is 5, and you could see the corresponding x is 5 by 3. So I got to know what is this 5 by 3. Okay. If this is 5, this is also 5. And you could see you have a right angle triangle. You can apply the Pythagoras theorem to find this line. So you could see that is what it leads to 5.270. Okay. And now what we have found is the length of the line on the, sorry, it's here. Yeah. We have found the length of the line on the plane formed by positive x-axis and positive y-axis, which is the 5.270. It means that we found this length now. In this figure, we found this length. And obviously this length will be also the same as this length. So the total length of the line, which is really trapped inside that closed surface or a volume, you could see it is 10.54. It's an addition of these two. Okay. And as I told, I got this dimension and I got this dimension. The area of the plane, which is really trapped inside this volume, or I can say a closed surface, is the area is 10.54 into 10, which is 105.40. And hence now the flux is leaving that closed surface due to the sheet of charge is rho s into that area. It's rho s into that area, which is 10.54 microcoulomb. Okay. So is this point is clear? Any doubts? Yes? Yes, any doubts? Is this problem is clear?
Excuse me, sir.
Yes.
So why we have put that y is equal to 5?
Yeah, why y is equal to 5? Okay, because I know that the y value in this particular closed surface is 5 at the one side, because I want to know what portion of the line is present inside the this closed surface, cubical closed surface, and I know what is the value of the y. I mean, y is varying from at the right side from 0 to 5. It is a maximum. And hence I substituted y equal to 5 in the equation of the straight line to find the corresponding value of the x. If if this plane was at y equal to 10, then I could have substituted y equal to 10 in the equation of the straight line. Is this point is clear? I mean, you can even refer this diagram. Okay, this is the equation of the straight line. Okay, and you could see if I try to see this portion, okay, the y value here is 0, okay, and maximum it is varying till where 5, okay. So what we know, it is varying from 0 to 5, okay. When y equal to 0, the x is 0, that is fine. When y equal to 5, I was interested to find what is the corresponding value of the x. Is that when y equal to 5, I want to know what is the corresponding value of x, and that I solved it from y equal to 3x, and I got to know what is the x, and I got to know what is the y, and I applied the Pythagoras theorem to find this length. I got to know this length, and obviously this length will also be the same as this length. Is that is clear?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So any doubt? Shall I proceed?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay. So this problem was not given as straightforward as I was telling. Okay. So it is now what they really told us, they have given this plane, okay, and they have given the equation of the line on that plane, okay. Now the only thing I was interested to identify what area of this plane, okay, which is really trapped inside this cubical surface. And to find the area, I know I need two dimensions. One is this length into breadth, okay. I need one dimension as this, and one more dimension as this. And I know that z varies from -5 to +5. So the total height is 10, okay. And next I was interested to know this length, and this length is nothing but the length of the straight line, okay. And in order to find this length, I should know what is yeah, in order to find this length, I took the help of the equation of the straight line, y equal to 3x, okay. And I know that the y and the right side, okay, is varies from 0 to 5, okay. And hence for y equal to 5, I found what is the corresponding value of the x, okay. And once I know that, if I try to observe this and this, it looks like a right angle triangle, and I know what is this value and I know what is this value, I can apply the Pythagoras theorem to find this length. Once I know the right portion of the length, I can also find this portion of the length. It leads to, I got to know what is this total length, okay. It means that in this diagram I know this length now. Once you know this length, you can multiply with this length to find total area, which is really trapped inside this cubical surface, okay. Yes. So now so this is the problems on the Gauss's law, okay. I mean, you can even recall in the previous lecture, okay, we tried to solve one problem. There was a sphere and there was a charge which is placed inside the inside the sphere, which is at the center. I mean, it is at the origin, okay. And the question was asked is, how much the electric flux leaving a portion of a sphere, okay. And if I ask you a question, what is a flux leaving a complete surface area, okay, it would be a Q, okay. The flux leaving a complete sphere area will be equal to Q, okay. And if I ask you how much it is leaving a hemisphere, then you could have said it as in the Q by 2, okay. Yeah, it is Q by 2 because the fluxes are distributed uniformly, okay. They are distributed uniformly. It's Q by 2 in the upper hemisphere and Q by 2 in the lower hemisphere. If it were not distributed uniformly, if there was no symmetry, I could have not told this directly, okay. Yeah. just I want to show that is from this that is exploring spherical coordinates in the Wolfram is that I mean how that portion of the sphere, okay, looks like for theta equal to pi by 2 and phi equal to pi by 2. Okay. So I hope you remember in the last class we discussed this problem. The charge was located at the origin and we were interested to find what was the flux leaving a portion of the sphere or something. And they have given the information as the phi varies from 0 to pi by 2 and theta was varied from pi by 2. Okay. Yeah. I'll just try to show that. Can you see this? Exploring spherical coordinate? Yes? Can you see this exploring spherical coordinate?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So now you could see that. Yeah. Now you could see that. I mean, there is one small change in the convention. Okay. So we know that the theta varies like this from 0 to pi. Okay. And the phi varies like circle, which is 0 to 2 pi. But here the convention is exactly opposite. Here the theta varies from 0 to 2 pi and phi varies from 0 to pi. Okay. So right now you could see I kept theta as a 2 pi because we know that the pi is approximately 3.142. So it is up if I take it as approximately 3, so 2 pi will be around of 6. Okay. Yeah, and the phi I have kept it as 1.5. Okay. So 1.5 means like a pi by 2. And you could see now it has lead to a hemisphere. Is it not? Can you see this?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So you could see that if you want to form an hemisphere, okay, so we need our phi. Okay, I'm speaking with our convention. The phi, the phi goes like round and round. It should complete 0 to 2 pi, and the theta should vary half. Okay, the actual variation of theta is 0 to pi, and if you want to have a hemisphere, it should be from 0 to pi by 2. Okay, that is what is indicated. Okay, yeah. So now I'll change this phi. Okay. I'm sorry, should be that 1.5 is correct. I should change this now. Yeah. So now if I make it as pi 3, okay. Yes, you could see that you have cutted the hemisphere into half. Okay, can you see this? Yeah. So when we have here, okay, the area was half of it. Okay, when I change this theta, okay, in our case it's actually a phi, to a pi. So this is what we have, the portion of the sphere. Okay, so which is now as 1/4 of the area of the sphere. Okay, and in our problem they have given as pi by 2, so which is 1.5. Okay, you will see it will divide again in this area into half. Yes, it was this portion of the area. They were asking what is a flux leaving the, what is flux leaving this portion of the area? And obviously, I could say that this portion of the area is now 1/8 of the total surface area of the sphere. And okay, yeah, is this point is clear? So now let us switch. Let us continue with our discussion. Yeah. So these are the problems on the electric flux and the Gauss's law. So now let us, is yes? Is this is visible application of Gauss's law?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Shall I proceed?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So now we have seen what is Gauss's law, and we have seen problems based on the Gauss's law. Okay. So now next is what is really the application of this Gauss's law. So we have a great advantage of this Gauss's law when we have a symmetrical charge distribution. Okay. And we'll try to use this Gauss's law to find an electric field, okay, due to the symmetrical charge distribution. Okay, so we know that we can really find an electric field due to a charge distribution using a Coulomb's law. That is, we can use the definition of electric field to find the electric field due to the charge distribution. And we have done it in the module 1. Due to a point charge, due to a line charge, and due to the sheet charge. And we can try to recall that. If we are trying to derive the electric field due to line charge, okay, there is, there is a big process. The first thing we need to identify the symmetry of the charge, and then we should then we should do the integrations, okay, and then we'll get the required electric field. Okay, so the same thing, okay, we can really do with the Gauss's law in the quite simple way, okay, provided if you have a symmetrical charge distribution. Okay, so let us see how we can do that one. So we know from Gauss's law, the flux leaving a closed surface is equal to the surface integral of ds dot ds, and that is equal to charge enclosed. Okay. So we need to determine. So you could see that if I know what is flux density, I can really find what is electric field, because we have a relationship. D is equal to epsilon naught times the electric field. So we need to determine ds for known charge distribution. Okay, this is an example of integral equation in which unknown quantity to be determined appears inside the integral. Okay, but the solution is very easy if we are able to choose closed surface which satisfies the two conditions. First thing is, ds is everywhere either normal or it should be tangential to the closed surface, so that ds dot ds becomes either a scalar product of ds into ds or 0 respectively. Okay, yeah. So what I'm trying to tell is, if you have some closed surface, my flux density should be either normal to that surface, okay, or it should be tangential to that particular surface. Okay. And you could see that for a given surface, we define unit vector normal to that surface. Okay. So in that case, when D is normal, they are really parallel. In that case, the D dot ds becomes simply ds into ds. If the ds is tangential, you could see these two are perpendicular. In that case, it becomes a 0. Okay. Next, on that portion of a closed surface for which ds dot ds is not 0, the ds should be constant. Okay, so this is our requirement of a closed surface. I mean, for a given symmetrical charge distribution, okay, if you can really choose the closed surface such that it really satisfies these two conditions, okay, our solution becomes very easy. Okay, I have tried to explain that here. If ds is normal, d dot ds, the dot product becomes a product of scalars, ds into ds. And further, if ds is constant on that surface, we can bring ds outside the integral. Okay, that is what. If it is normal, the dot product becomes a product of scalar. Further, if you claim that ds is really constant on that surface, we can really bring it outside of the integral. Okay. And once you have brought the ds outside the integral, the remaining integral is nothing but the integral of ds, which is nothing but the the area of the surface. Okay. Yeah. So what I'm really trying to tell is, for given symmetrical charge distribution, okay, say for example you have a point charge at the origin. Okay, so we know that the flux lines are symmetrical. Okay, if flux lines are symmetrical, we know that the flux density direction will also be the same. Okay, and the next question is, we need to identify a closed surface, okay, so that I can apply Gauss's law for this. Okay, and you could see for this particular configuration of a charge distribution, the closed surface which really satisfies these two conditions will be a sphere. Okay, because the direction of the flux density is same as the direction of the flux, so this is the direction of the d. Okay, and for a given surface of a sphere, we know that a unit vector normal is same as ar hat, and you could see both of these directions are same. Okay, so the d dot ds becomes a scalar. I mean, it's become a product of a scalar. And further, we know that the flux density will be constant for a given sphere of a radius r. And obviously, we can really pull out the ds, and it becomes the surface integral of this sphere. Okay. So you could see that by just knowing the symmetry configuration of a charge, we can find the flux density by using this Gauss's law. Once we found the flux density, we can find the electric field. Okay. Now, the only thing is, you should choose a Gaussian surface wisely. It satisfies the two conditions. The one thing is, the flux density should be normal to the surface, or it should be tangential. And if it is normal, it should be constant on that portion of the surface. Okay. Next, we say that the knowledge of the symmetry of the problem enables us to choose proper closed surface to satisfy above two conditions. And such surfaces, we call it as the Gaussian surface. Okay. Okay. So now let us try to apply Gauss's law for a point charge at origin. Okay. And in this thing, I'm interested to find an actually electric field due to a point charge at the origin. Okay. Now, what steps I follow is, I know that when point charge is at origin, okay, the flux lines are radial. The flux lines are radial. Okay, first thing. Second thing, if the flux lines are radial, obviously the flux density will be also be radial. because direction of the flux density is same as the direction of the flux line. So the flux density are also radial. Okay. Yeah. So next I say that the flux density has a spherical symmetry. Okay. I hope you really agree with this. Okay. Now, if I really try to rotate the point charge which is located at the origin, okay, if you try to rotate around, or if you try to rotate, I mean, in terms of like this angle like this, you could see still this flux line really remains the same. Okay. If that is the case, it means that the flux density, the flux density, we can write it as we have only one component, that is R component, that is dr AR hat, and also we say that the dr is a function of R alone. dr is a function of R alone. Yeah. So once I know this symmetry nature of the flux density, my next thing is to choose a proper Gaussian surface. Okay. And you could see that for above spherical symmetry, the appropriate Gaussian surface will be a spherical surface, because the flux density is normal to the surface everywhere, and obviously ds is constant at all points on the surface. So once these 2 points are clear, these steps are really very simple. This is simple mathematics. So any doubt in this point? Yes, anyone? So if anyone has any doubts with the points whatever I had discussed so far with respect to application of Gauss's law. Yes. Yes, any doubts?
No, sir.
Okay, shall I proceed now? Okay. So for a given problem, the first thing we need to identify the flux line nature, that is how the flux lines are. Okay. And we know that the flux lines are radial. Okay. And they are symmetric. Okay. And it is spherical symmetry. Okay. So it means that the flux density will be also a spherical symmetry. Okay. And we need to identify. So once I say the flux density is spherical symmetry, the next question comes is, now how many, which all components of D are present? Okay. In spherical symmetry, we know we have AR hat, A theta hat, and the A phi hat. Okay. So which all component of D's are present? Okay. And next, each of these components are a function of which variables? Okay. So this given problem, it's really very obvious that d theta and d phi are really not present. The only components are really present is a dr, and it's a function of r. Okay. So once you can really able to identify this, the nature of the d by the symmetry, okay, we can really try to choose a proper Gaussian surface. Okay. And I was trying to tell you that you could see that if you have a point charge, okay, if you try to place another charge here, you will experience the force, and that the strength of the force will differ. Okay, if you go along the radial. Okay. But you could see that if you try to move in this way, you could see the force, okay, still remains the same. The force per unit length, whatever you say is, force per unit charge. So it means that it's not really a function of theta, or even it is not really a function of the phi. Okay. It's really a function of r alone. Okay. And that is why I really say that the D is dr ar hat by the symmetry. Okay. Yes. So now once we know it's a spherical symmetry, the obvious, the choice of a Gaussian surface is the spherical surface, and that is what I have shown the Gaussian surface as the spherical surface, and a unit vector normal to the surface is ar hat, and you could see this is the direction of the flux density, and the flux density is normal. It's a normal everywhere on the Gaussian surface. Okay, and for a given sphere of a radius r, it is really a constant. Okay, so with this, now I can apply Gauss's law. That is the surface integral of ds dot ds is equal to q enclosed. Okay, I am applying a Gauss's law for a Gaussian surface. Okay, I'm trying to apply a Gauss's law for this Gaussian surface. Okay, so, and as I said, the ds, the dot product will lead to a scalar product, and next I said it is a constant. I can take it as, we can take it outside the integral. Okay, so we are left out with the only this, and this is nothing but what? It is nothing but the surface area of the sphere, and we know that the surface area of the sphere is 4 pi r square. So now anyone could tell me what is q enclosed inside the Gaussian surface? Yes? Anyone could tell me what is a charge enclosed inside the Gaussian surface?
Q.
Yes, it is Q. So the charge enclosed inside the Gaussian surface is Q. Okay. So now whatever I have found ds is nothing but that dr. If I compare this equation, now I have found the dr. This component I have found. So that is what dr. And hence now I can say that d is that is q by 4 pi r square ar hat. Okay. And the electric field will be, and we know, once I know the d field, I can find electric field, which is q divided by 4 pi epsilon r square ar hat. And you can really recall that we have also found the electric field due to point charge when we were defining the electric field, and you could see we got the same answer. Okay, and now we have found using a Gauss's law. Okay, so is this point is clear? Any doubt?
No, sir.
Yeah. So now next let us go for the same problem which we have done in the module 1. We'll try to find an electric field due to an infinite line charge which is along the z-axis. Okay. Yeah. So now, can you recall? Even there we have discussed the symmetry of the problem. Okay. So anyone could tell me which component of electric field is present, and it's a function of which variable? Yes. Is it a function of a z?
No, sir.
No, that's good.
No, sir.
Yeah. Is it a function of phi?
No, sir.
Yes, because as we discussed, as you move up and down, the problem remains same, and if you move round and round, the problem remains the same. Okay, And also we have discussed that is E phi component is not present. The only components are really present is E rho and Ez. Again, by axial symmetry, the Z component get cancels. So we know that we have only rho component of electric field, and it's a function of rho alone. Okay. Yeah, I can give one more trick also. Okay, we know that D and E are related. Okay, yeah, the direction of the electric field and the direction of flux density is also same. Okay, so by even this, okay, I can really say straightforward from symmetry. Okay, I can write that the flux density is d rho a rho hat, and the d rho is a function of rho alone. Okay, because this complete symmetry we have discussed in the module 1. Okay, yeah. So once I know that we have this kind of a symmetry. Okay, now the appropriate choice of a Gaussian surface is obviously a cylindrical surface. Okay, because I need to choose a Gaussian surface such that the flux density should be normal to this surface. Okay, and you could see that if I choose a cylindrical surface, okay, the blue line I have shown, this is the direction of the flux density. Okay, and this is the direction of unit vector normal to that surface. And you could see that for a cylindrical, for this side surface, the flux density is normal everywhere. Okay, which I have tried to show with the blue line. Okay, yeah. So from this figure, it is very clear that, okay, if I take a cylindrical surface, I have a 3 portion of a surface. Okay, the first one is side surface, second one is top surface, and the third one is bottom surface. Okay, and by symmetry, I know that the nature of the flux density is radial because it is arrow hat, which means it is like this. Okay. So I could see that my flux density is really normal on the side surface. So can you tell me how it is on the top and the bottom surface? Are they a normal? The flux density is normal on the top and bottom surface, or they are tangential?
Tangential.
Yes, that is really very good. It is tangential because a unit vector normal to the top surface is in this way, that is AZ hat. Okay, and whereas my flux density is arrow, it is like this. Okay, it is actually tangential to the surface. And we know that if tangential is the flux density is tangential to that surface, the d dot ds will be 0. Okay, so now you could see that is what now we'll apply Gauss's law. And also I said that and you could see this, the flux density, okay, is a function of rho alone. Okay, so for a given a cylindrical surface of rho, okay, so obviously the flux density will be constant on that surface. Okay, for a given cylindrical surface, say of a rho, if you try to compute a flux density on that surface, as a flux density is a function of rho alone. Okay, first of all, it is normal on this surface and it will be constant on that complete surface. Okay, so now I can apply Gauss's law, that is closed surface integral of d dot ds equal to charge enclosed. Okay, And first I need to split this surface into three surfaces. One is side surface, one is top surface, and one more is bottom. And just now I said, as the ds is tangential to this top and bottom, this will be 0. And on this surface it is normal and it is constant, so I can do this. I can take ds outside. First of all, it will be a scalar product, and next I can take ds outside. And you could see we are left out only evaluating the surface area of the cylindrical surface. Okay, that's the side surface. And I mean, you can try to remember what is the surface area of a cylinder, or you can really perform the integration. And we know that the ds of this side cylinder surface is given by rho d phi dz. You can perform this integration because I have taken the cylinder of a length L. So the z varies from 0 to L and phi varies from 0 to pi. And rho is a constant, and we'll take it as rho itself. Okay, because we have taken the cylinder of a radius rho. You could see that I have taken the cylinder of radius rho. Okay, and you could see it leads to as 2 pi rho L into L. That is the surface area of the cylinder. R is the radius of the cylinder, L is the length of the cylinder, 2 pi rho L. Okay, so now next part is we need to find charge enclosed. So anyone could tell me what is the charge enclosed inside this Gaussian surface? And we have a line charge with a line charge density as rho L coulomb per meter. Yes.
Rho L into L.
Yes, very good. It is rho L into L. So this much amount of a length of a line charge is trapped inside the Gaussian surface, and total charge on this length of a line of a L is rho L into L, and hence the Q enclosed is rho L into L. And you could see now we can solve for the ds. Okay, so now ds is rho L by 2 pi rho, and you could see if I compare this equation and this equation, I have found the ds, that is d rho. Okay, and hence I can say my d is rho L by 2 pi rho a rho hat. So once I found the d, I can find really E, which is rho L by 2 pi epsilon naught rho a rho hat. And you could see we got the same result, that is electric field due to a line charge, which we tried to compute using a Coulomb's law. Okay. So you could see once we know the symmetry, the rest of the thing is really very easy. Okay. We don't require all those integrations as we performed. As we performed in the module 1, which we found electric field due to line charge using Coulomb's law. Okay. So we'll stop here. So in the next class, we'll try to continue with the next configuration as infinite sheet charge. And once this done, we'll continue with the coaxial cable. Okay. So that's fine. So today we have seen problems on the Gauss's law, and also we have seen the application of the Gauss's law. As I told in the last class, okay, all the concepts learned in this lecture requires understanding and applying the concepts, and hence the entire lecture comes under the Bloom's level L3. Okay, and this is a map to the course outcome of 1. Okay, so thank you for joining for today's class. We'll conclude this class here.